Marshfield Country Club. 1978, the Rexicana. It burned on September 6th. 1979 and 89, Copeland and Sons Lumberyard. 1981, it was arson, Assumption Church. 1990, the Adelaide Phillips House burned July 9th, and there were some lightning strikes there throughout history. Okay, before we go on, we're going to take the time machine here. So we're going to have you remove your shoes, go through the metal detector. There is a $5 surcharge for a pillow. There are no snacks. Okay, one point, hit it, Chris. I borrowed this from my friend H.G. Wells. Hopefully it works. We're going to all go back to 1941 now. Here we go. One more tap, Chris. All right. All right. Take your Dramamine. Let's see. Here we go. All right. One more, Chris. Here we go. All right. We're back to 41. That's right. 1941 was an incredible year. It was an incredible year in baseball. The Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio, one of the greatest center fielders in history, although some people think that Gami, who just died this year, was overshadowed by his older brother. And then you have the greatest hitter that ever lived, Teddy Ballgame, the kid, the splendid splitter. He hit 406 that year. No one's hit 400 since then, and it's remarkable. He was more John Wayne than John Wayne, this guy, okay? This guy went off to World War II. He had a smoking jet he landed. My dad met him in, I think it was Pensacola during the Korean War, and didn't recognize him as Ted Williams from Boston. And they called my dad Boston Blackie. But anyways, as my dad went to pay off the tab, they said, "Oh, no, the major paid it. Ted Williams paid it." So, and then my aunt, if you go back one more, Chris, and then my aunts chased Ted Williams out of a barber shop one time for his autograph. Joe DiMaggio hit in 56 straight games. So 1941 was just an incredible year in baseball. Also, the 21st, if you were to get your Time magazine that day, that's your cover. The world was at war. Yugoslavia General Dusan Simovic. Also, what's in your morning paper that day? Well, the Nazis are within 30 miles of Athens. 21 British troop transports with thousands drowned or lost. There's a firebomber accused of being a communist on loose in Mattapan, the Red Scare. There are bomb scares at Logan Airport. The Red Sox undefeated streak comes to an end. They're 5-1 at the hands of the Washington Senators and Steve Sondra. Joe Cronin's hitting 500, Ted Williams 400, Don DiMaggio 444. The Boston Braves pulled within 3 games and 4. They pulled 3 wins and 4 losses after beating the Philadelphia Phillies. The weather says sunny, dry, and windy. That's key. And there are major fires all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and a big one raging through Fort Dix, New Jersey. The newly formed National Guard will be called out to help at Camp Edwards in Sandwich Woods and at Fort Devens, and the Germans firebomb Plymouth, England, and that came right back at them 4 years later. Okay, so what's going on 1941 during this day? It's a very, very dry day in Marshfield, one of the driest in years. You've got over 250 fires are reported. All the state woods are closed. What's ironic is last year, on the same date, there were over 200 fires reported on April 19, 2008 in Massachusetts. Acting Governor Horace Cahill, Governor Saltonstall in Washington, says that 1 fire is being reported every 20 minutes. At the Quabbin Dam, trees felled by the 1938 hurricane lay as matchsticks, kindling wood, to fuel the fire there and other places. 2 billion trees were felled in New England alone during the Great Hurricane in 1938. All pilots are called upon to spot and report fires from the air. All hunting, trapping, fishing suspended. Here's the one. All firearms dispensing prohibited. Couldn't leave your house with a gun. And just bear with me, I'm going to read these towns so you know who was suffering a fire. Acton, Ayr, Barnstable, Berry Plains, Belchertown, Billerica, Blackstone, Brimfield, Boxford, Burlington, Katomet, Cohasset, Concord, Drayton, Fiskdale, Groveland, Harvard, Holliston, Hopedale, Hingham, Ipswich, Lancaster, Leominster, Lexington, Maynard, Medway, Mendon, Methuen, Millville, Milton, New Braintree, North Andover, North Bridgewater, North Uxbridge, Norwell, Oakham, Pepperell, Randolph, Rutland, Sandwich, Shirley, Sutton, Swampscott, Topsfield, Upton, Westwood, Whitman, Winchington, Wilmington. Fort Devens reported 8 fires that day, and only somebody from Massachusetts could get the right pronunciation. Let's look at the weather conditions. 1941 is the driest year since 1888. 1888 was a very bad weather year. There were two major blizzards. The blizzard of 88 that took place in that, and then something known as the children's blizzard, where a teacher froze to death with a number of students tied to ropes as they tried to leave a schoolhouse. April was a very dry month, with less than an inch of rain in the last 4 weeks. Don't know that feeling, do we? The morning of April 21st was very windy with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. I could see Chief would say that you got the wind blowing, you got dry conditions, it's bad. But you say, hey, the fire was in Ocean Bluff. Boston Traveler, the newspaper, called it the Ocean Bluffs fire. The Boston Record called it the Ocean Bluff fire. The Boston Herald, wrong again, called it the Brant Rock fire. The Boston Post, the Great Shore fire. The Marshfield Mariner, 1973, in a reprint, called it the Great Brant Rock fire. Marvelous article, by the way. Technically, nothing burned in Brant Rock, only in Fieldston and Ocean Bluff. So, it began just before 2 p.m. at the corner of Ocean Street and Plymouth. Or did it? We either think it started at 1:40 p.m. that day or 1:50, depending upon who you talk to. Now, people have asked, was it a cigarette? Was it mischievous arson due to school vacation beginning that Monday? Was it a broken glass bottle? Boston Post. First one, the cigarette. A gas station owner who owned the gas station relatively where Courtney's is, in that gas station that pumps a short gallon is now. Trust me, it pumps a short gallon. I know, I measured. He said that he saw a cigarette flicked out of the car into the reeds, okay, that started the fire. And then I had a woman here in my lecture, lovely woman, who told me she was that day as a child behind the car that saw the person throw the cigarette. Are you here tonight? Okay. And then finally, a broken glass bottle, according to the Boston Traveler, Boston Post rather. And again, they said that deflected sunlight through broken glass lit the reeds on fire. And as I've been quoted as saying, that's only happened once before, and that was on an episode of Lassie. So, originally, we thought that that's basically where it started, just off of Plymouth at the bend of Ocean and Plymouth there. Then a grass fire started near Fieldston Lodge and swept into the tall horsegrass in Dykes Meadow. The gas station owner at Ocean Street in Plymouth, who called in the fire, claims that he saw a cigarette butt thrown out of a car window. As I mentioned, the Boston Post claimed that the sun reflecting through broken glass had died the fire, yada, 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 Lassie. Now, Father O'Connor is here, and Father Bill O'Connell gave me a picture, handed me a picture last year when I did this lecture in Marshfield. And I looked at it and I couldn't believe it, because here, and correct me, and I need some of our longtime residents here, this is ground zero right here. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, is the bend on Ocean Street, and is this Plymouth? Am I right, folks? So where does that place that? And whoever threw that cigarette has an arm better than Dwight Evans. Does anybody want to help me out there? This
By the old drive.
By the old. Yeah. Gerard's is what? Where's Gerard's? Here? Okay. So it starts. It's bizarre. I mean, this is it. This is ground zero. This is where it began. It was ignited. So maybe all those stories. The guy who had the gas station down here. Again, if you saw it, whoever threw it can't have an arm.
There's smoke down the lower corner, in the center there. Right there, yeah. Smoke there. That's the corner. That's the corner.
Never even saw that.
We have a comment.
Father O'Connor.
Yeah. In looking at that picture, I blew it up. And there were 3 houses that used to be on the left side of 139 coming down to the beach. I can remember it as a kid. They were basically the same design. They had a second floor with the full dormer on them, and they've sort of been altered a little bit. Porches have built on them, and the rest. And if you look closely, you can see those 3 houses at the time. There's been a lot more that's been built up later, but the fire seems to be located approximately adjacent to the second house. And it's probably 100, 200 yards down from Nassarella's farm, in that area there.
Okay, 100 to 200 yards from Nasarella Rowland's Farm, coming towards the beach. Okay. So, sir, good catch now. I never noticed this. Is there a possibility that we're talking about two fires that merged? Wow, break. Oh, in order for it to merge? Well, eventually the wind does change and blow from west to east. Okay. And I mean, this looks like a southwest wind blowing right now.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the other stuff. Wow. So, problem is the speed of the fire left virtually no time to react to it. People were stunned. Like the hurricane of '38, where junior meteorologist Charles Pierce, 28 years old, says, I think that this hurricane in the Caribbean is going to shoot up the coast and hit New England and New York, and he was waved off saying, son, a hurricane will never hit New England. Well, this here, this is Ruth Public cover. Getting out of the house was first and foremost. There was no time to gather belongings. Most of the residents only had what they had on their shoulders. A resident said it went up just like that. Can we go back to that for one moment? Look at the terror here, Chris. This guy here's got some sort of canister.
Pump. That's what I down to pump.
Yeah, but there was a water pressure issue here in Marshfield during the time of the fire. Okay. And this is the picture of the inferno, well underway from the air, and you can just see how it's scorched right to the beach. And people, I've been told, we're going to hear your stories after tonight's lecture. In order to get from one area, you had to literally walk along the beach. So there was a mad scramble, and before long, a street was being engulfed. A whole street was being engulfed every 20 minutes. So look at the people, the panic here. This guy was lucky to grab something. Poor woman there trying to throw things out on her lawn. She's reacting properly, and that was the key in this fire, is that people recognized that this was a conflagration. This was a monster, and they didn't do stupid things and try to go back into the house. They saw that it was coming. They tried to save what they could, and then they moved away. A firestorm. The lights that had never been seen in these parts took off like an unleashed dog. Houses almost exploded. And that wasn't due to natural gas. The gas company tried to shut off the gas and stay out in front of the blaze. But because of the wind and the dry conditions, houses just went up. And the burnt embers were fanned to flame, went to the next roof, into the next, into the next. And as you can see, people moving their cherished belongings. And you're not talking about multi-millionaires here. They're in small homes. So Silas Wright had the presence of mind and the humility to call for help. Now, I harken back to my story about Nantucket firefighters, how they fight over who had the honor of fighting the fire. And in that era, there was some pride where the police would hesitate to call for help because it might reflect poorly on their department's performance, that they couldn't handle an incident within their town, or a fire department couldn't handle the fire. Well, this guy, Silas Wright, and the fire chief, recognized that, hey, we've got an issue here, and he put the call out, and because he did that, and racing up and down the street, letting people know that there's a fire, people that didn't even know that a fire was going on in their houses, that he saved so many lives. This man's a hero. Old Engine 3, better known as the Old Girl, okay, and Duxbury firefighters worked at a conflagration in the Brant Rock section of Marshfield in 1941. She was lost in the fire. We'll see a photograph of that in a moment. And she was replaced by the Marshfield Fire Department. Blown embers ignited adjacent houses. Other heroes include State Fire Marshal Stephen Garrity, Commissioner Eugene McSweeney. These were men that came to the aid of Marshfield. As soon as they heard about the fire, they jumped in their automobiles and headed there and did whatever they could do to get the Red Cross activated, to help with evacuation of residents, to bivouac them. It was the movement of these people during this fire, and they didn't hesitate, is what saved lives. Police Chief William Pratt, again with Silas Wright now. You got Police Chief Pratt, Fire Chief Silas Wright, both of them. And it was Chief Pratt raced up and down Ocean Street, warning residents about the fire. Huh? What? And they look out their door, they see this big elephant trunk of a plume of smoke coming out, and they got them out of their house. This saved several lives, as very early on, most did not even know that a fire was raging. So by dry weather conditions, heavy winds, poor equipment, and very poor water pressure in Marshfield. It's hard to put a trickle and put a fire out with a trickle when you don't have the water pressure necessary. Backfires were set by firefighters, and they backfired. And the backdraft fueled the conflagration. So you backfires, the backfire, and the backdraft. And backfires were set in Damrell's fire. Didn't work, trying to knock down the fire. And it was a great fire in Chicago in 1871. Didn't work there, and it didn't work in Marshfield. Molten lead dripped from the wires in a lethal spray. Imagine watching everything that you own go up in flames. I know that we're in a materialistic world, and I'm saying we're the younger people, the folks that have lived through the Great Depression, that have lived through the good times of the Great War, the Good War, don't necessarily have that cling to this material possession. But imagine the little prized possessions that you had gone in an instant. Heartbreaking. Everything. I mean, everything burned. Bicycles, houses, right down to the rock foundations and the cement foundations, streets, the macadam streets, buckled, front lawns burned. Anything within the vicinity was ashen.